For 15 years, I had been the family's go-to person for medical emergencies. When Mom had her gallbladder surgery, I took 2 weeks off work to care for her. When Dad's diabetes spiraled out of control, I drove him to every appointment and managed his medication schedule. When my sister Sarah broke her leg skiing, I flew to Colorado and stayed with her for a month during recovery. I was the one with the medical background, an MD from Johns Hopkins, board-certified in emergency medicine, and department head at Regional Medical Center. But to my family, I wasn't Dr. Jennifer Walsh. I was just Jenny, the reliable one who handled the messy, inconvenient parts of life while they focused on more important things. The pattern never changed. Crisis hit. Family panicked. Jenny fixed everything. Family moved on without acknowledgement. Sarah would throw lavish dinner parties to celebrate her recovery, never mentioning the person who fed her, bathed her, and drove her to therapy. Mom would post Facebook updates about her miracle healing, forgetting the one who slept in hospital chairs and argued with doctors on her behalf. And for 15 years I accepted it. I told myself this was what family did. I ignored the silence when I had the flu or when I went through minor surgeries. If I complained, Dad's answer was always the same. You're the doctor. You can handle it yourself. Then the accident happened. It was a Tuesday morning in March. I was driving to the hospital for an early shift when a drunk driver ran a red light and slammed into my car at 50 miles an hour. The impact crushed the driver's side. I spent 6 hours in surgery for internal bleeding, a collapsed lung, and a traumatic brain injury that left me in a medically induced coma. Dr. Martinez, my colleague, called my emergency contact, my mother, within the hour. Jennifer is in critical condition, he told her. We don't know when she'll wake up. The family should be here. Her response: oh my goodness, that's terrible. But we're so busy with Sarah's engagement party this weekend. Keep us updated. No one came. Not that day, not the next, not the third. The nurses who had worked beside me for 8 years were stunned. Where's your family, Dr. Walsh? They asked. They knew my stories about Sarah, my nephew, my parents. They had seen photos on my desk, overheard me covering medical bills or taking calls. They assumed my family must be traveling. But no one showed up. Not when I developed pneumonia from the ventilator. Not when my condition deteriorated and my survival was uncertain. Not even when I finally opened my eyes after 3 weeks and whispered my first words. But my colleagues came. The nurses visited daily. Dr. Martinez never missed a day. Staff brought flowers, read me the newspaper, played music, checked on me. Even the cleaning crew stopped in. On day 10, Sarah finally called, not to check on me but to ask a nurse if I'd be back to normal soon, because she needed help planning her wedding. When told I was still in a coma with unknown brain damage, she replied, well, let us know when she's functional again. Then hung up. The nurses were horrified. One of them, Maria, said to Dr. Martinez, she's always covering their bills, giving advice, flying across the country. Where are they now? I drifted in and out of consciousness, hearing their anger, their concern. But I also heard something else. Respect. One nurse whispered, Dr. Walsh saved my daughter's life in the year. She stayed 4 hours past her shift to stabilize her. When I finally woke fully, recovery was brutal. Brain injury rehab, relearning to walk, battling chronic pain. But worse than the physical struggle was the realization. My family had abandoned me. The first call from Mom came on day 22. Not to ask about my condition but because Dad needed a referral. Oh, you're awake, she said flatly. Great. Listen, your father has been having chest pains. Can you call Dr. Peterson's office? They'll squeeze him in if you ask. I was barely able to sit up. I was relearning how to write my name. And she wanted me to make phone calls. I'm still in the hospital, Mom, I whispered. I know, honey, but this is important. You know how your father worries. I hung up without helping. Something fundamental had shifted. A week later, Sarah called. She wanted me to look at her fiancé's rash, by photo. Don't be dramatic, Jenny. You're fine now. It'll take you 2 seconds. I hung up on her too. Recovery took 4 months. During that time, my family called 6 times. Each call was a request for medical favors, referrals, consultations, advice. Not once did they ask about my recovery. Not once did they visit. Not once did they offer help with groceries, bills, or transportation. The hospital social worker finally said what I hadn't admitted. You've been their unpaid medical concierge for decades. When you needed them, they vanished. That's not normal family behavior. And she was right. I had been their insurance navigator, emergency contact, treatment coordinator, bill payer, personal physician. Not their daughter. Not their sister. Just their free medical service. When I returned to work in July, my colleagues welcomed me warmly. Patients thanked me for past care. At work I was valued. At home I was exploited. Then, in September, the call came that changed everything. Mom's voice shook with panic. Jenny, thank God you answered. Something terrible has happened. My old instinct flared. Drop everything, fix it. But I had learned to pause. What's wrong? I asked carefully. It's about the malpractice suit, she said quickly. Do you remember Mrs. Henderson, Dad's patient who died during surgery 3 years ago? Her family is suing for $2.3 million. The lawyer says we need documentation from the hospital medical board proving the standard of care was followed. Insurance is threatening to drop us if we can't provide it. You know people there, right? Can you get us that certification? My blood went cold. I remembered Mrs. Henderson. Diabetic, 67. Dad had insisted on surgery despite clear risks. I had warned him against it, told him medical management was safer. He dismissed me as too cautious. She died on the table from the exact complications I had predicted. And now they wanted me to save him. When Mrs. Henderson died, he never mentioned my warnings. When the family threatened to sue, he never asked for my support or testimony. Now they needed me to provide official medical board documentation that could save him from a $2.3 million malpractice judgment. Jenny, are you there? This is really urgent. The deadline is next week. If we can't get board certification, the insurance company won't cover the lawsuit. We'll lose everything. The house. Dad's practice. Our entire savings. I understand, I said quietly. You need medical board certification from Regional Medical Center. Exactly. Can you call someone there? Maybe that Dr. Martinez you work with? Someone who can review the case and provide official documentation. I drew in a slow breath. Mom, I need to tell you something. What, Jenny? We don't have time for. I am the medical board. Silence. What do you mean? She asked weakly. I mean, I chair the medical board at Regional Medical Center. I have for 2 years. Any official medical board review and certification has to come through me personally. The silence stretched longer. You're the chairman? Yes. The position you're asking me to use my connections to reach. That's my position. The authority you need for board certification. That's my authority. The person who will review Dad's case and determine whether proper medical protocol was followed. That's me. I could hear her breathing, but she didn't speak. And Mom, I continued, my voice steady, I remember Mrs. Henderson's case very clearly. I remember the consultation Dad requested. I remember the detailed medical advice I gave him about the surgical risks. I remember him dismissing my concerns as overcautious. I remember him proceeding anyway. And I remember Mrs. Henderson dying from exactly the complications I warned him about. The silence deepened. The medical board review will be very thorough, I said. We'll examine all consultation records, including the detailed written advice I provided Dad before the surgery. We'll compare his actions to standard medical protocol. We'll determine whether he followed appropriate procedures or ignored expert medical advice. Jenny, she whispered. You can't. We're your family. Family. I said softly. You left me in a coma for 3 weeks. No visits. No calls. No concern for whether I lived or died. But now you need the authority you never acknowledged I had, and suddenly I'm family again. I heard Dad's voice in the background asking what was wrong, demanding to know what I was saying. Here's what's going to happen, I said calmly. The medical board will review Dad's case according to protocol. We'll examine the records, including my consultation notes. We'll interview all relevant professionals. And we'll determine whether proper standards were followed. But we're your parents. Mom cried. You can't do this to us. We'll lose everything. Mom, I'm not doing anything to you. I'm doing my job. The same job I've had for 2 years while you thought I was just Jenny who could make phone calls. The same job I held while I lay in a coma and you couldn't be bothered to visit. I paused, letting the silence remind them of every moment of neglect. You know what's interesting? I said at last. For 15 years, you treated me like your personal concierge. Free consultations. referrals, bill paying, appointment scheduling, emergency coordination. But you never once saw me as the professional I am. You never respected my expertise. I was just convenient. Dad got on the phone. Jenny, you're being ridiculous. Of course we respect your career. But this is family business. You can't let professional rules destroy your own father. Dad, when you asked my opinion on Mrs. Henderson's surgery, was that family business? Or professional consultation? You were just helping me think through a difficult case. No. I was providing expert medical consultation. I reviewed her chart. I assessed her risks. I gave you detailed written advice recommending against surgery. That wasn't your daughter talking. That was Dr. Jennifer Walsh, board-certified emergency physician, giving you professional guidance. You ignored it then. And now you want to use my authority to save yourself. I could hear Mom crying. The board will review the case thoroughly, I finished. Including the consultation records that prove you received and ignored expert advice. Jenny, please, Dad begged. We're your family. We love you. This lawsuit will destroy us. Dad, where was that love when I was fighting for my life in a coma? Where was that family when I needed support during the most critical medical crisis I've ever faced? I hung up. I sat in my office staring at the framed diplomas on my wall. Johns Hopkins Medical School. Board certification in emergency medicine. Department head. Medical board chair. For years my family had seen none of it. They had seen only Jenny, the convenient daughter who fixed everything. Never Dr. Walsh, the professional whose expertise they dismissed until it suited them. The review took 3 weeks. I recused myself from the final vote, but I submitted all documentation, including the consultation notes where I had explicitly warned against the surgery. The board ruled. Proper protocol had not been followed. Expert advice had been ignored. Mrs. Henderson's death was the result of foreseeable complications. Dad's malpractice insurance refused coverage. He lost the $2.3 million judgment. The family home was sold. His practice closed. Their savings liquidated. 6 months later, Mom called again. Jenny, your father's having chest pains. We can't afford a cardiologist without insurance. Can you take a look at him? I thought of the 3 weeks I spent alone in a coma. The 4 months of recovery they ignored. The 15 years of unpaid medical service. Mom, I said quietly, I'm not your family doctor. I never was. I was your daughter, who happens to be a doctor. But daughters who spend 3 weeks in a coma without a single visit aren't really daughters anymore. You can't still be angry about that hospital thing, she protested. We explained we were busy. Sarah's engagement. I'm not angry, Mom. I'm just clear about boundaries. If Dad needs medical care, he should see a physician. I can recommend several who accept payment plans. But we can't afford. That's not my problem anymore. You'll have to figure it out yourselves. I hung up. On my desk was a thank you card from a patient's family for saving their father's life. Beside it, a photo from the hospital charity gala where I'd been honored for my contributions to community medicine. My colleagues valued me. My patients trusted me. My community respected me. For the first time in years, that was enough. The phone kept ringing, but I didn't answer. Some relationships, once broken by abandonment, can't be repaired by need. Some bridges, once burned by neglect, can't be rebuilt by desperation. I had finally learned the difference between being a daughter who happens to be a doctor, and a doctor who happens to have ungrateful relatives who only call in crisis. By the time they needed me, it was already too late. Some consequences can't be cured, even by the best medical care.